Ashen is finally out in Australia on Switch, PS4 and Steam. It was initially delayed on Switch, but it's here now. I got a chance to play Ashen on Switch thanks to A44 for providing a code. Did you want to know a little bit about how it runs on the Switch and this fantastic game in general? Let's go. Ashen looks to be running at around 30 SBS for the most part, with a couple of dips here and there. One of the earlier areas where the game is kind of covered in like a sandstorm, I noticed the drops here the most, but it never really hit an unplayable state. It was just a couple of dips in frame rate here and there, which is kind of annoying for a game that's about perfecting combat, you know, with your dodges and timing your hits perfectly, but it never really got to a state where it was affecting my gameplay itself. Graphically, there are a couple of noticeable differences to the PC version, such as a lack of anti-aliasing in some areas, like those jagged edges you notice a bit more on the Switch, both in handheld and docked. Some lower texture quality here and there, and there's a couple of pop-in with some of like the grass textures and stuff, but it's nothing that bad, and there's some weird water effects, which I got footage of here. Ultimately, I think Ashen's art direction and style makes this a really minor issue. Ashen isn't trying to be the next graphical big hitter. Its art style is a very minimalistic, almost kind of like a painting, and this clearly shows on the Switch, and I think it's actually a strength of the game itself, as it's not trying to be the next big thing. It has a really specific and direct art style, and it still looks fantastic on the Switch. I personally really enjoy Ashen's aesthetics, and I think it just is reflected exactly how it should be on the Switch. I've tested the game both in handheld and docked mode, which is most of the footage that you're going to see in this video. The game seems to run better for me personally in handheld, but also it looks a bit better graphically, in my opinion, when you're holding it in that smaller screen rather than being blown up on a television. I personally prefer to play Switch games handheld because I'm lazy and I enjoy lying in bed. Who doesn't? The game performs well either way. Thanks to Tech Blokes for allowing me to use their setup to get this handheld footage you're seeing right here. I'll have a link to their channel in the comments below. A key feature in a lot of these Switch ports that I find an interesting fact is the load times, and I can safely say that Ashen's isn't actually that bad. It's about 30 seconds a load, which is a bit longer than the PC version. My PC loads it in about 10 seconds. It isn't that bad. 30 seconds isn't too bad unless you're dying regularly, then it may become a bit annoying, but it's considerably better than some of the other Switch titles that we have. Witcher 3. I did, however, encounter a single bug which appears to be specific to the Switch version. I don't think it appears on other platforms, and it's easily replicated. Thank you to Ildris for bringing this to my attention. If you change the control scheme to Alt 2 specifically, after a loading screen, it will switch back to the default control scheme while the setting itself will stay on Alt 2, if that makes sense. If you go back into the setting and like switch back to Alt 1 and then Alt 2, it changes the scheme back, but it happens after every load screen. So after every death or loading into the game, so you can't set it in the menu first and then load into the game. It'll switch back, if that makes sense. And now a little about the game itself. Ashen is made by a New Zealand-based developer, A44 Games. The world has been in darkness for many years. With the rebirth of the Ashen, the world is once again covered in light, but there are many who would see the light distinguished and the world kept in darkness. Your mission throughout the game is to heal the Ashen and assist in it recovering its strength. The hero of this journey is you and your companions, who will join you on your task of restoring the Ashen and unraveling what happens in the world during its dark ages. Ashen is a Soulsborne style game. It's very evident where the inspiration for this game has come from, but the primary loop in the game is a little different to Dark Souls, in which you are venturing further and further away from the town to defeat bosses, complete quests for your companions, but you're also returning to the town of Vagrant's Rest very regularly, and that's kind of the loop cycle of the game. This loop, to me personally, is actually really satisfying because your town, Vagrant's Rest, in the beginning of the game is basically just a pile of dirt, like honestly. As you venture into the world and you find more people to join your town and you get more people coming and helping assist in the growth of your town, Vagrant's Rest soon becomes a thriving village with new items to buy, people to talk to, new buildings, new areas. It's well worth coming back, in that the changes you see throughout the story is what makes this loop satisfying, of going out and doing those normal Dark Souls things and then coming back to the town and seeing what's changed since you were last there. I personally found that really enjoyable, and it was always fun to come back and say, oh, what's different? Is there a new building? Is this being built? It was always worth it to me. The combat aspect to Ashen is predominantly where this Soulsborne influence is mostly shown. Your character can hold a one-handed weapon, a two-hander, and a spear at any time, as well as a lantern or a shield in your offhand. Obviously, you don't hold either if you're holding a two-handed weapon. Using these tools, you will venture out into the world to fight the Elder Dark, the Listener Matriarchs and humans, and any manner of creatures that you find during your mission. A feature that makes Ashen unique compared to a lot of other titles in this genre is the use of light and the use of your lantern as you journey throughout the world, especially into the darker places like most of the dungeons. The light or the absence of light in many of dungeons means you will need to show your way with your trusty lantern. If you're carrying a lantern, you cannot wield a two-handed weapon or a shield in your offhand as the light is taken up by your offhand. You can put the light down on the ground, but it limits your safe space as you can only see so far ahead of you. And without the light, it is pitch black. You cannot see anything. And these are the kind of choices that you have to make during your journey as you venture into those dark places, whether you carry the lantern, whether you don't, whether you put it on the ground, how you want to interact with the light. Luckily, you don't have to brave the darkness alone. Your character will be accompanied by one of the many companions on your journey. While in these dark places, they will often offer their own lantern, but you can turn off the AI companions if you so choose, but their assistance is often vital in a lot of these darker situations. The game also supports a passive multiplayer where your AI companion can be taken over by a real person who is around the same point in the game as you. You can also connect with a friend by entering a specific code filter to connect with them. This feature can be extremely finicky to get to work the first time, as you have to meet a certain amount of requirements and it's not really clear how that works. The game doesn't represent that well to you. I'll make a separate video specifically on how to do this, but once it's working, it works perfectly. I cleared the first 2 bosses with a friend the other day. I didn't have any problems with the connection or latency or anything. It worked perfectly for us. There is also a DLC available on the eShop called Nightstorm Isle. I have a separate video specifically on reviewing this DLC up on my channel. I'll throw up a card here. If you're not sure about purchasing the game or the DLC at once, you don't necessarily need to have the DLC to enjoy the game. The DLC is a separate side story that has some narrative threads that link with the main game, but it's completely self-contained otherwise. It's really just up to you whether you want to pick this up immediately or see if you enjoy the game first. Ashen is uniquely positioned on the Switch as the only other Soulsborne style game is Dark Souls 1. If you enjoyed Dark Souls on Switch, then Ashen is definitely a buy in my opinion. It runs well and it's a fantastic game. And as with all Switch games, the portability is obviously a bonus. On a personal level, this game is uniquely important to me. The game originally released on PC and Xbox in December last year. During this time, my partner was away for work, so I was left at home a lot of the time with just me and my 2 cats. Now you might think, hell yes, this is party time, but for an introvert like me, it's honestly just headphones on and uninterrupted game time. Every night for about 2 weeks, I knocked off work, cooked dinner as fast as I could, and hopped on Ashen. The game was released at a perfect time initially for me, and I spent so much time playing it, enjoying the world, obviously dying a lot, and it was one of my favorite games of 2018. I replayed it recently on stream for the Steam release, and I'm now playing it for a 3rd time on Switch, and I personally love this game. It means a lot to me because of how it was introduced to me, and I can't get enough of it, honestly. I'm playing it for the 3rd time, and I'm still using the same weapons I used the first time because I haven't got bored of it yet. If you're looking for a Soulsborne style game on the Switch, Ashen fits that bill, and it's perfect for the device. Honestly, it's good on any platform you choose to play it on. This review is just specific to the Switch version. Anyway guys, that's my thoughts on Ashen. If you're thinking about picking up Ashen or you've played it in the past, let me know of your thoughts in the comments below. I have some other Ashen content on my channel, like a tips video, and I'll be posting some stream highlights of all the boss fights over the next week or so. Thank you for watching. My name is Norzza, and have a great day.